Good morning, friends of the channel. Today we're working on this large wardrobe, salvaged from a house. Sorry for Pina, she's very unprofessional. Pina, we are working, okay. So it was taken from a house where the owners no longer wanted the furniture. I'm always grateful when people call me instead of throwing things away, as it's a very important cultural activity to save furniture. So, please, if you don't want your furniture, call someone who can modify and use it, rather than throw anything away. Of course, looking at it now, you might wonder where to put it. Perhaps for bolts and screws. Once repainted, though, it'll be very handy. Look at it inside. Pina aside, it's beautiful, raw, it's solid wood. So it needs to be saved, first of all, because it's solid wood, unlike new furniture, which isn't even real wood. That was the first point. Second, it's fairly straight and level. Yes, it has some cracks and damaged back parts. We're not restorers, we're restylers, and we'll teach you how to paint and change it so it's perfect even in a lovely home. Above all, we'll do something very elegant and a bit country. Right, we've put the clamp here. Let's get started, it'll already be glued. Yes, let's get started. One of the first things we'll do on this furniture is apply a coat of anti-tannin. Now, the question you should be asking is, why use anti-tannin? Because this wood is particularly rich in tannins, which will definitely cause stains to appear. So it's best to start by preventing them with anti-tannin. The second question you should ask is, how do I know when to use this anti-tannin and when it's not needed? You know perfectly well that anti-tannin is not a primer. Don't use it to help paint stick, because that's not its purpose. Anti-tannin is only for sealing the wood and preventing any stains or dyes that have been applied to the wood over the years, like oils, dyes, anything that's been used to make the wood look richer and more hydrated, from resurfacing. In this case, I know perfectly well I need to use anti-tannin because I can see, specifically in this spot, some reddish stains that are clearly a base coat applied to even out the wood years ago. You can also see it on the front, where there are drips that aren't raised. When I run my hand over the door, I don't feel any thickness, it's smooth. That means it's a stain that was applied to the furniture years ago to dye it. So, what will happen is that when we apply a water-based paint to the furniture, the stain will almost certainly come out and smudge the paint. I wouldn't care if I were going to finish this piece with a wax patina, antiquing, a color wash, or any kind of finish that would mask these marks that stain the color. But since I know that I don't want to do any color washes, antiquing with waxes or patinas, or faded effects on this piece, I want two clean, neutral colors that I already have in mind. Let's first solve this problem. So, we apply a good coat of anti-tannin. If the anti-tannin gets stained, it's better to apply 2 coats. This saves us a lot of work, like bleaching the largest part of the furniture. This way, we're sure about the tone. So, I apply a good coat of anti-tannin everywhere before doing any other work on this piece. I'll work with a short nap roller, and Emma will use a brush, so we can help each other and get it done faster. When you start with a roller that's not new, remember, use masking tape on the bristles and do this, because it removes impurities and any loose fibers that might come off during application, leaving the nap soft. Right, now I'll pour my anti-tannin into my tray. Obviously, remember that anti-tannin should never be diluted, or it will affect its coverage and sealing properties. So, what do you do now? Emma will start with the pointed brush. Go into the corners and make sure the anti-tannin gets deep into the moldings, even pressing in if needed. We'll start this way with the bottom part, then do the top straight away. I press with the pointed brush. Get one, because it's an excellent brush. Then, without wasting time, I'll load the roller well. This time I haven't dampened the roller because I don't want any water when applying the anti-tannin, so the roller is completely dry. I drain it a bit, but still leave it full of product. You know it should never be spread too thinly to get that sealing effect, and I apply it all over the furniture. Obviously, when the roller has nothing left to give, I reload it. It needs to be full coverage, a coat that completely seals the wood grain, so the tannin can't rise from the furniture. I remove any finishes, flatten it out, and reload. I work in strips, so I stop here. I check that it's nice and even, remove any joint marks, and voila! A first strip is done. Quickly, before this strip dries, I move on. There shouldn't be any visible joins, so I immediately reload the roller and connect the next strip. There shouldn't be a single spot where the anti-tannin hasn't been applied, otherwise it won't provide its protective, sealing effect and the wood won't be sealed. You can see here, there's nothing left on the roller, so I take just a little more, at least to finish this bit. It's important never to press down on the roller, especially when applying anti-tannin, which is meant to create a sealing coat. So, make sure you don't press down. Here, I'll use two colors mainly, dark sand and clear sand, to create some stripes and realize a country effect. For this, I need a perfect surface, and that's why I use anti-tannin. To prove to you that these drips aren't raised, look, when we apply the anti-tannin, there's no texture, but it's very important to cover them because they're definitely from the stain. So, make sure you do a good job and apply the anti-tannin everywhere, thoroughly. Here, it's absolutely necessary to apply 2 coats of anti-tannin, and I'll show you why. If you look in this corner, you'll already see the anti-tannin starting to turn yellow, because it's absorbing the tannin. Even here, in some spots, you can see it darkening, like here. You see it's more yellow and brown in some places than others. So, when the anti-tannin turns yellow, it means it was a good idea to use it, because it's absorbing and blocking the tannin underneath. So, 2 coats are perfect. On the upper part of our furniture that could have had some problems, it's missing a piece, and on the lower part, I'll add a nice trim from woodjuband, which is also quite thick. These types of trims are especially useful for this, not just for decoration, but for fixing serious problems, even on large pieces like this. The code for this trim is WUBTR817, that's the code, and it's really, really easy to use. I'll show you now. First of all, it comes individually wrapped, and one of the first things you need to do before using it is understand that if you heat it up, it opens up and takes the shape you want. The most important thing, though, is that the thicker the trim, the longer it takes to heat up and become moldable, but it will also stay workable for longer as it cools. So, what do I do? With my heat gun, I start heating it up. But always remember, if you don't have a heat gun, you can put it in the oven, use a baking tray and a bit of baking paper, and you can start heating it up that way, or even with a fairly hot hairdryer. I've also got my wood glue ready. It's important that it's for wood, and my staple gun. Why? Because this molding is so large, and I need to use quite a bit of it. I prefer to use a few small nails here and there. If you don't have a staple gun like me, it doesn't matter. You can use simple nails, preferably without heads. If you don't want to use nails, use some paper tape. Apply the trim and secure it with a strip of tape so it stays nice and taut, and you're good. To heat it up better, always start on the top, then flip it and heat the underside as well, so it's warmed through on both sides. Now I'll unroll it and take it straight to the furniture. I'll start at one end, go all the way around the perimeter of the piece, and finish at the other corner, always using the trim in one continuous piece without cutting it. So I have a seamless band to decorate the furniture. Now, I'm heating it well, let's continue. I've heated the first part of the trim, just to do the first side. I take my glue and now apply it to the trim. Remember, you can put it either on the trim or directly on the furniture. I've heated it enough, so my only concern is that the trim stays nice and hot, but above all, that there's plenty of glue. If any glue seeps out, remember it's not a problem, just remove the excess with a little water and a brush. For convenience, I keep it upside down so it's easier for me to work. Emma will help me, and we'll start applying it. I'll use the staple gun. I applied it flush to the furniture. First nail, second nail, third, fourth, fifth. Sixth. Remember, to do the corner, it's absolutely essential that the trim is piping hot, because if it's not hot and the trim is this thick, when you bend it, it'll crack. So the only way to make it nicely rounded, as if it was made directly on this piece, is to heat it thoroughly. Press, bend, and you'll see it molds to shape. Now, with the staple gun, I secure it. I've fixed a really big floor. The only thing I need to be careful about is that this trim is firmly attached at the base. You shouldn't see where the trim starts and the furniture ends. So now, with my nail gun, I keep doing it. If any glue seeps out, remember, a small brush and a bit of water will remove the excess. So you can clean it up nicely, and I assure you that once it's dry, there will be no trace of glue. I let it dry. I've reached the end. I'll place another nail here so it's all nicely fixed. Now that it's hot, Emma will cut it with a sharp cutter. Remember, since it's quite thick, you need a really sharp blade, and above all, heat it as much as possible. Once the trim has cooled, use some sandpaper to gently sand it. This way, it won't stick out and will look custom-made. I'll continue and put the same trim underneath as well. As you can see, the trims have been applied and look great, because underneath there were two little bun feet that looked really awful and out of place. Now there is a nice finish. The piece was originally designed to sit directly on the floor, and now, with this trim, I like it much more. Let's move on to the coloring. Dark sand, used pure, applied with a pointed 2 brush on all the edges. Then I go over with the short nap roller and continue on the surface. Look. You start with the edges and then finish everything off with the roller on the larger areas. This way, you'll be quicker. On a piece like this, where there was a lot of tannin, make sure not to use paints diluted with water, as it would compromise the paint and the protective barrier created by the anti-tannin, and the tannin could come through. By using pure paint, the tannin should stay put. Emma, do you want to continue? I load up my short nap roller well, of course. I've washed it and I'm using it clean, with no more traces of anti-tannin, and off I go. As you can see, the color is perfect, precise, smooth, and you'll see that soon the tannin won't come through. But as I've just explained, I'm using the paint pure, without adding any water. Watch how it covers the entire surface completely, without risking any drips. The drips you see underneath are smooth, but they are all traces of tannin at the base, which are now being sealed under the paint. Look, with just one coat, I've practically covered everything. Look at that purity. Now, let's continue over the whole structure. Then we'll see if one coat is enough or if we need two, before moving on to the next decorative step. The dark sand is now completely dry. We've taken a 5 cm wide tape and placed it here in the middle. Obviously, it's not the easiest thing in the world if your furniture isn't perfectly smooth. As you can see, we have all these moldings, the door, so you have to be a bit more careful to get it into the grooves. But that's exactly what makes this process so lovely and captivating, the fact that it's not simple. If it were a smooth piece of furniture, it would be really easy, wouldn't it? So imagine, if you have a smooth chest of drawers, this is a beautiful technique. We've left the top and bottom edges out of the taping, because I don't like making a line on an edge that's already so detailed, though stay pure, neutral dark sand. We'll leave this 5 cm strip of tape in dark sand, so the base color. Then we'll measure 10, put the tape back, 5, 10, and put the 5 tape back, alright. A 10 cm stripe in another color, and the 5 cm stripe stays in the dark sand base color, alright. We've already taken some measurements with a ruler and a pencil, and Emma will help me putting the tape on. It's important to always carefully follow the edge. So you get when you are applying tape, you are doing it as easily and precisely as possible. And voila, we continue across the whole surface of the wardrobe, so we'll end up with lots of masking tape. 10 to paint, 5 masking tape, 10 to paint, 5 masking tape, even on the side. I've already shown you this little trick loads of times in loads of tutorials, and maybe we could even make a playlist. What do you think? Perfect stripes. There must be at least 10 to 15 tutorials using this technique, but I never get tired of showing you. To get perfect stripes with masking tape, before applying the second color, you need to go over the masking tape, or just the masking tape, with a coat of the base color. So now I'll go here and put a coat of dark sand over the masking tape, let it dry, and then apply the color I've chosen for the stripes. Now it's time to do the stripe. I've chosen a very delicate color, clear sand. So today, we're doing something very refined and very delicate, clear sand in contrast with dark sand. One thing to note, you should always remove the masking tape when the paint is still wet. Don't remove it when it's dry, because it could pull off the paint underneath in some spots. Why is that? Because sometimes, certain pieces of furniture may have been degreased with arbor, but over the years they've been oiled or waxed, which means you can't ever get them 100% clean and pure. So, please, always remember that masking tape should always be removed when the paint is still wet, even the low-tack kind. Pure clear sand, let's get started. I've picked the Architetta brush specifically for this, as you can see now, so I don't end up overlapping too much with the decorative molding and don't have to mask it off further with paper tape. I don't want to get it dirty, so that's my only precaution. A brush that fits nicely into the grooves, just as I want. Now I'll do the first few stripes, this one, and this one, and then I'll remove the masking tape, so you can see how it turns out. Let's see if our stripes have come out well. Voila! Obviously, if there's any smudging, it's no big deal. Just take a small brush and touch it up. 1 removed, 2 removed, now let's take off the third. As you can see, there's absolutely no smudging, they're perfectly straight and precise. I'll carry on across the whole piece before moving on to the next technique. One of my favorite redesign transfers, one of the most classic, most iconic, and it's very clean and smooth. This has the word family. There are others too, right? What other words are there?
There's coffee time, bakery, and something else.
Which is the English for pastisseria. These large words can be placed on wooden panels or pictures. If you remember, in my TV series, I Love Restyling, in Moro's house, we made pictures on old wooden panels with these transfers, and people loved them. So today, we're putting it here, because this wardrobe will fit many spaces, an entrance hall, a kitchen. It has a wide space, so it can store vintage dinnerware or pots and pans. It's so roomy, it solves many storage problems. Or in a bedroom, a parent's or child's room, in many spaces. This beautiful, colorful, but neutral writing will sort everything out. We'll apply it quickly with a wooden stick. Once you remove the protective film, take the writing and stick it onto the surface. It's very easy to center. Do you like it here, or lower? Yes, a bit. Here, is that all right? Am I straight like this? I need to lower it here, is this okay? Okay, let's stick it on and, using the wooden stick, start applying pressure. I always recommend doing this treatment following the grain of the wood underneath. This way, the transfer will adhere even better. If you want to make things even easier for yourself, in some cases, while the transfer is applied, you can use a bit of a hairdryer, and the warm air will help the glue stick to the transfer even more. In this case, is that needed? No, it peels off nicely. Let's see. Look how beautiful, look how quick. Are you nearly done, Emma? Yes, let's see how ours turned out. There's one step, actually two missing, but one is essential, the pickling. Let's hope it works with this technique and transfer, because I wanted it to be country chic. Et voila. Do you like it? I use my sander with fine sandpaper to wear with the pickling. My furniture is dry, and the lettering is perfectly applied, and now I wear it. Why the pickling? Because this furniture is anything but perfect. Wooden boards have some open spots. They are worn, with chips and dents. We've added moldings to fix issues at the feet and top of the furniture. In short, to ensure a good restyling, we must update it to match its age, and above all, the style I want to give it, by doing a good bit of pickling. If you don't want to do the same thing I'm doing now, so if you don't want to do the pickling, that's fine. But make sure that the base of your furniture is nice and clean, smooth, even, without too many woodworm holes, dents, or damage. Because painting over it without pickling isn't a good idea, it'll be obvious that it's a piece with a new finish that's trying to look old. So, a good pickling is needed. I use the sander because it's too big and I'm tired. I don't feel like doing it by hand. So if you have one, use it too. If you don't have this one, but another one, make sure to use fine sandpaper, like 120 or 150 grit, all right. These are the right types of sandpaper for pickling, don't go below these grits. Please, don't use an 80, a 60, or a 40 grit, for heaven's sake, because they'll completely ruin the furniture, scratching and damaging it, even eating away at the wood. My wood is a bit thicker, but there are much more fragile, softer woods that would be completely eaten away by such coarse, rough grits. So, nothing less than a 120. I used a 120 underneath, but it has been used a lot, but you don't really notice it, because my sandpaper is microperforated, alright. It breathes very well, so it sucks up all the dust I create, and I also connect it to the vacuum. So, if you want to use a 120 grit, maybe one that's already a bit worn, I can also reduce the power of the sander. I'm going to set it to 4, no to 3. I still go over everything, not just the corners, because I want all the dents to come out, like here. A nice wax protection. And why wax? Because we've applied the anti-tannin, stains haven't come through the paint, so all's well. It's water-based paint, used without adding water, so it's water-based, not a solvent. We haven't had any bleed through, so why look for a problem now that we have finished? And moreover, after having pickled the furniture, this process slightly breaks down the structure of the anti-tannin layer, so it could happen that in some spots, when applying the protective coating slightly diluted with water, as the protective coating should always be diluted, you might get some tannin bleed through. So, if you need to do something like this and you have to pickle the surface, I recommend not using the protective coating, use wax instead, unless you want to make a table, or whatever you like. My advice is not to pickle it, so as not to compromise the coverage or the barrier created by the anti-tannin, and use the protective coating only if you must, diluting it just a tiny bit, about 5%, just to make it easier to apply with a brush. As for the brush, an over one works well, since it's thick and it's different from all the other brushes used for painting, so I don't get confused. The brush used for oil, restaurateur, and wax should only be used for those waxy, oily products, never for applying paint, alright? Don't use it here, use it like this, so you don't strain your hands. Load it up and protect. You can use either the Jasmine wax that I have here or the Legendaria wax. It makes absolutely no difference. And remember, the best thing you can do to protect your furniture is to apply the wax with a crossed brush stroke, so first horizontally, then vertically. This way, you can be sure you haven't missed a single centimeter and your furniture will be 100% protected. Also remember, if over the years you notice your furniture becoming a bit dull, you can reapply the wax and it will look as good as new. And remember, every time you massage the wax in, whether it's been a month, 2 months, 3 months, or 5 months, you'll be revitalizing it, making it shinier and more protective each time, alright. The only thing you mustn't do with wax is to remove it, but you already know that, right? Because you all follow the videos. Now I'll finish up and show you how it looks in its setting. This restyling is finished, and this is pretty much how I imagined it. What about you? From the start, we didn't expect such a great result. It was in very bad shape. You can't always grasp the condition of wooden furniture from tutorials when we first get it. Some parts were beautiful and solid, just as they are now. The inside is a sight to behold. It's pure, with perfectly straight solid wood shelves. Everything is in wood. We didn't paint the inside, because it's gorgeous as it is. Whoever buys it can decide whether to line it, paint it, or leave it natural. This natural wood is so beautiful we have left it like this. I love these two decorative molding trims. They look great and finish it off, putting everything in its place. I think it will end up in a lovely home, with a family who will cherish it. You want to say something?
It's lovely and the moldings look like they were always meant to be there.
Do we have any other suggestions? No, the setting is perfect for this furniture, which is a country style or rustic home, even a modern country house where it softens the look. In a children's room, an entrance hall, or even the kitchen for hanging pans. Magic Paint is available from authorized retailers on magicpaint.it. They are listed by region. Look for the one you like more, or on the elisahome.com website, but never on Amazon. Goodbye.